very warm welcome to you wherever it is you're tuned in from, Kenya, East Africa, and around the world. This is Takeover, the show that discusses all things technology. My name is Brian Jodutieno. You can call me Branji. Today, we'll be talking about the reduced funding towards African startups from 4.6 billion US dollars in 2022 to 2.9 billion US dollars in 2023. What has made this possible, and what is the effect, and how can African startups turn around this and go back to where they were, especially in attracting funding? But there's a lot more happening, and a lot more that happened in the tech space this week. So here then is the tech news of the week.
We're putting all that power of Galaxy AI in your hands.
The much-awaited Samsung Galaxy AI has been launched. One of the most immediately noticeable new features of the Ultra is how it's built. This year's model has a titanium frame, which Samsung allows for better durability. Samsung has filled its new phone series with just about every AI feature you've seen on other flagship phones to date. Key outstanding features of the Galaxy AI are Translate feature that enables you to translate calls coming in foreign languages, and note-taking. The all-new Galaxy AI equally powers Circle to Search that enables you map a picture and search it on your search engine and provide detail about it. The new AI in this series also provides intelligent gallery that sorts your pictures into various albums as desired automatically.
So far what we've done is there are different languages we've incorporated. There's one for text. We have already around 38 languages there. We have the one for voice, it's around 13 languages. So what we are doing, if you know, is AI, you train it. So what we are doing is we are getting at least partnership in different countries where we can be able to train the AI to be able to cover up that language. So what we do is we get other partnerships where we can be able to train it based on the local languages.
The Communications Authority of Kenya, CA, issued warning notices to Airtel and Telkom Kenya for non-compliance with the quality of service QoS standards offered to consumers on their mobile telephony networks. In its just released QoS report for the year ended June 2023, the industry regulator indicates that only market leader Safaricom surpassed the 80% performance threshold after it posted a 90% score of the set key performance indicators (KPIs). According to the report, Airtel and Telkom Kenya attained 79% and 65% respectively, translating to an industry average of 72.4%, with the score being a significant drop compared to the average 82.3% attained in the year to June 2022 and 75.5% in the previous year. CA says that a mobile operator is rated compliant when they attain 80% of the set QoS KPIs. Finally, it's Data Privacy Week. Data Privacy Week is an international effort to empower individuals and businesses to respect privacy, safeguard data, and enable trust. The sheer volume of data generated about you and your activities online is staggering, which is why data privacy has become a defining issue of our digital age. All these AI technologies expand their footprints across our daily processes, systems, and products. There will be increased governance on responsible usage. These public and private sector regulations will focus on how artificial intelligence and machine learning-based technologies are built and trained, ensuring they stick to ethical and privacy standards. We expect these regulations won't be a one-size-fits-all scenario, varying depending on your region.
Fair enough. Now you're up to speed with what's happening in the tech world. Time now for that discussion. And I'm with the proprietor for Africa Tech Summit, Andrew Fassnidge, joining us for a second time now. Andrew, always great to see you.
Thanks, Benji. Great to be with you again.
Yeah.
My name's Andrew Fassnidge. I'm the founder of Africa Tech Summit.
All right, so let's start it off. African startups have seen a reduction in funding from 4.6 billion US dollars in 2022 to 2.9 billion US dollars in 2023. What drove this? Is it because the global financial system is taking a hit, or what really informed this?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of factors really on the funding side. obviously we're going through a bit of an economic downturn globally.
Yeah.
The US dollar, I think, is having a massive effect. So we look at US inflation and US interest rates, which have rocketed, that has had a huge impact on the cost of capital and lending and VC money. So what we're seeing obviously is it's a perfect storm, I would say. So we're seeing high inflation, we're seeing the US dollar really crippling some local markets, and also we're seeing, say a Kenyan company who is getting funded in US dollars, showing their revenues in Kenyan shillings, and that currency has dropped substantially. So we're then seeing them reporting their numbers, even though they may be growing in US dollar terms, their revenue is falling, which is also leading then to down rounds. So investors are coming into valuations and saying, well, the next round's actually below your last round. So we're seeing a lot of flat rounds and down rounds across the continent. And also I think we have to look at the real issue right now is affordability for the local consumer. Now, if we look at Kenyans, Nigerians, South Africans, the disposable income is being killed by the cost of living. So to use these services that maybe they would have used a lot more, like Uber and logistics services and all different, Netflix, whatever it may be, the disposable income has shrunk.
That was quite a significant drop from 4.6 billion to 2.9 billion, and this, of course, an effect. What does that mean for African startups? In Kenya, particularly, we've seen a lot of consolidations, a lot of them closing shop and rebranding and reimagining. What's the effect of this on the large African continent?
Yeah, I think we are going to see consolidation. So I think we'll see consolidation and mergers and acquisitions. So if we look even in fintech, there are a lot of different people tackling a lot of the same problems in payments, in lending, in insurance. Is there enough market share for all of them? I would say maybe not for some. So I think what we will see is this year is a lot of mergers and acquisitions between companies. We've also just recently seen Wasoko, Kenyan logistics play here in e-commerce, have now merged with an Egyptian play. So there's also some really positive stuff coming out of this current environment. So they now are a player who's covering East Africa and North Africa as a merger. And I think those things are also showing that the ecosystem is maturing in some ways. But unfortunately, we've seen some casualties already here in Kenya with Sendi and others who have folded. That unfortunately is part of any downturn. I think it's not Africa specific. I think if we look globally, the US is also going to see this similar, and Europe. Africa probably didn't suffer the .com boom, which the rest of the world did. But I think now we're going to see similar shakeout. But also I think you see great companies are built in downturns as well. Now there's a real focus on unit economics, profitability, and not just like we'll fund growth and hope it comes. I think now the investors are most VCs would say in the last 2 years, probably since COVID, that valuations have gone crazy. There was a lot of money sloshing around at low interest rate levels. Now the reality is going to come back into the market. Valuations are getting a bit more realistic. There was companies looking to raise millions of dollars and not give board seats to directors who were VCs. So it had gone a little bit crazy. So I think some reality is coming back into the market, and I wouldn't be a believer that it's all doom.
Let's dial down deeper. So what are some of the sectors that took the biggest hits?
Certainly from what we saw in the last 12 months, I think Web3 was a casualty on the basis of the crypto winter and what happened there. But again, what we're seeing is a lot of good stuff. It's still plenty of investor activity. But from 2022 to the end of 2023, we probably saw an 80% decline in the Web3 space. But that was an implication of FTX and also what happened there. So that affected a lot of companies who were backed by subsidiaries and different things like that in the Web3 space. We are beginning to see some, I would say, some cracks appearing in fintech. where the market maybe isn't it's a transaction based. A lot of them are transaction based.
Yeah.
If you have a recession and people aren't transacting as much, and then the revenue model doesn't work so well. So I think we are going to see, my hunch is, a lot more mergers and acquisitions in the fintech space. We've seen layoffs here in Kenya. Cellulent have laid a lot of people off, and a very strong company. But I think CEOs are having to make tough decisions on cash flow and headcount, and you've got to ride out the downturn until you can and maintain cash flow.
Let's look at per country allocation in funding for startups. Which countries did the best, or rather got the most amount of funding, and which got the least?
Yeah, I think it's always the same, the same usual suspects.
Yeah.
Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, and Egypt are typically the main markets where most funding goes to. If we look at the Kenyan ecosystem, Nairobi, and if we look at Lagos, they are building. A lot of companies are building there. I think something that's maybe not looked at as well is that we're seeing a lot more founders who are maybe basing their companies outside of Africa.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a lot of African founders coming to the UK on tech visas. So where that funding is actually domiciled is another thing. And also, a lot of companies are Delaware-based corporations. So the company is maybe Nigerian or Kenyan, but the funding is actually going to the US. So I think it's the usual suspects in terms of where the funding is going to. But again, it all depends on where the companies are domiciled.
Great. So I understand you get quite a number of entries in the startup level, but you dial down to 10, and so 10 startups have made it to the final of this year's Africa Tech Summit pitching sessions. What are you looking for, and how did they make it, and what unique entries did you select?
So at Africa Tech Summit, we've always tried to showcase ventures and give them the opportunity to be on front of investors from across the continent. I think this year we've had entries, I think a couple of hundred entries from across the continent. It's very hard. That's the first point I'd like to make, because we get hundreds and hundreds of entries, and then to bring it down to 10 is really difficult. I think what we're seeing is, what interests me this year is the array of entries. So, like traditionally, you would get a lot of fintech, but this year we've had e-commerce in the beauty space. So shown how markets are beginning to develop using technology. Some around climate, fintech, payments. So a good array and a good spread of countries as well. But Henry's our ecosystem manager who manages this. As I said, is extremely difficult, because it's very hard to pick 10 out of across a couple of hundred entries.
Last but not least, how different will 2024 Africa Tech Summit Nairobi be?
Well, look, Nairobi's always good. I think the energy, as I said, as we spoke earlier about the London event, our London event is equally very good, but nothing replaces the energy of Nairobi. We're looking to bring in, I think it will probably be close to 1,500 delegates. Last year we had delegates from 66 countries. It's looking equally strong this year. I think for me the exciting part is the number of different tech founders and investors who come from across the continent, and also that we're connecting this year. There's a number of sessions. One on connecting Africa with Latin America, one with North Africa, Middle East. So I think African tech is so strong it can go global. The founders are strong enough to bring their businesses to other parts of the world. And we're also going to have a session around Africa and the Caribbean. And there's corridors forming from across the continent to different markets where the skills and the technology can be used. I also think this year climate tech is one of the more pertinent topics. So we have the Africa Climate Tech and Investment Summit as part of Africa Tech Summit. So this year we will be showcasing different ventures and also highlighting how technology is solving the climate crisis. I think what we're seeing this year is also the investment appetite for climate tech is huge. We have a lot of investors coming from both across the continent and globally to the event to invest in climate tech businesses.
Welcome back. Time now for Startup of the Week.
Technology has provided numerous opportunities for innovators to leverage in providing solutions for their markets. Case in point, e-commerce that serves millions in Africa and Kenya. The number of users in the e-commerce market in Africa was forecast to continuously increase between 2024 and 2028 by in total of 57.8 million users, which represents about a 44.53% growth. After the 10th consecutive increasing year, the indicator is estimated to reach 187.62 million users and therefore a new peak in 2028. But one key area of shopping remains largely untapped: groceries, fruits and vegetables. This week's innovator Harun Okoth from Kenya is providing convenience for the Kenyan grocery consumers with his innovation, Mama Grow.
And we are looking to build technology to facilitate commerce for Africans in general in the global playing field with the big players in the industry. And so Mama Grow Fresh is a brand that is specifically niched in food and groceries. And we chose to start with that for various reasons.
Mama Grow's inspiration came from the need to provide a platform for farmers and consumers to find a one-stop shop for transaction and eliminate possible unfair brokerage that may affect returns to the farmers.
Do you as a consumer of what you eat every day, do you understand where the food comes from, who grows it, how it's grown? And so our goal is to create a very intimate ecosystem between our farmers and our consumers to promote traceability of food and to also make it accessible. So we basically do the job of getting you the right ingredients for what you need.
After months of work, research, coding and putting the product together, Mama Grow was ready to pilot in the Kenyan market late 2023. But there's a concern. For a market that consumers prefer to shop for groceries in person, just how do they plan to navigate this market and who are they targeting?
So our target market one is people who are interested in where the food comes from, one, primarily. So are you interested in where your food comes from, how it's grown? Would you like to know what you feed your body? Because that's a very important thing. You might not tell the effects of we might not tell the effects of what we put in our body right now, but the effects are very long term. And so it's really imperative that we understand where our food comes from and things like those. So that's one. The second thing is we are making it very convenient, because then if you are to go all the way to the farms to start looking for where your food comes from, I mean, that's a very complex process. So we are simplifying the process such that right now life is super busy, of course. So we basically simplify your life at the same time while giving you the benefits that exist in what we are doing.
The groceries delivery market in Kenya is expected to reach a revenue of $88 million in 2024. It is projected to experience an annual growth rate of 15.87 between 2024 to 2028, resulting in market volume of $158.6 million by 2028. The retail delivery market in Kenya is projected to have a market value of $57.56 million in 2024 alone.
Because we are in economic headwinds, like I'd put it, that in itself is a challenge. Also, the bigger vision of what we're trying to accomplish, which is leveling the playing field for African businesses to do commerce in the global scale. The technology behind that is a very heavy and complex thing. And so let's say we need a lot of funds, for instance, and being in the economic headwinds as we are right now, that can be a challenge. But again, those challenges are great. I like challenges like those because, yes, they're good problems because, I mean, as entrepreneurs, you don't start an entrepreneur because, you don't start a company because it's easy. You start a company because you have a great idea and yes, and you have a vision for what you'd like to do. And so whether it's good times or bad times, then your vision and the mission, that's what you stick to. So, and solving hard problems is good because then you build something that's enduring.
When compared globally, in China is expected to generate the highest revenue in the grocery delivery market, reaching $266,000 in 2024. Haron and team hope to scale Mama Grow Fresh to serve the larger African market with strategic partnerships around delivery and promoting affordability of the whole process. And that's our startup of the week.
Very well. That's another young man innovating in Kenya. So that was Startup of the Week. Let's now finish off with the Tech Tip of the Week, and then we'll just close the show. And this week we have a contributor. Ian Duncan is here with us.
Hi, my name is Duncan and I'll be taking you through Tech Tip of the Week. Almost everybody uses WhatsApp, and as a way to ensure that your data is private and secure, it is important to ensure that your WhatsApp is safe. One way you can do this is by going to your WhatsApp settings, click Account, click Two-Step Verification, click Turn On, set a 6-digit PIN that you're not going to forget, confirm it, and then save it. This is important because if somebody gets access to your phone number and tries to log into your WhatsApp, without this 6-digit code, they'll not be able to. A bonus tip is adding an email address. And you do this the same way by going to Settings, Account, Email Address, write your email address, and there will be a code sent to your email. Put it right here and then verify. In case you lose that 6-digit code that you set earlier, you can use this link to reset it. That's it for this week, and see you in the next one.
Thank you so much, Ian Duncan, for that Tech Tip of the Week. And that's where we want to wrap up the show. We've known the tech news of the week. We've discussed why African startups took a hit in financing last year. And we're also aware of the innovators of the week. A fair point to wrap up the show. My name is Brian Jodutiano. Thank you so much for finding time for Takeover. We hope to see you next week. May tech live forever.